All right, so AM Business is here on the AM show every Wednesday, brought to us courtesy EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. Now, let's talk about yesterday's special voting exercise that was carried out across the country, all 275 constituencies. A few issues came up yesterday, but there's also the issue of agents at the polling stations, and I'm sure that you've heard that elections are won at the polling stations. So there are a few concerns that people have raised, and I put all to the Member of Parliament for Recounting South, who also sits on the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament. Here's our conversation. When we come back, we will talk to other related persons. We've got the Senior Programs Officer of CODEO, their election observers, Rhoda Osei Afo will join us, as well as political scientist with the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asante, on the back of yesterday's exercise, as well as Dr. Srebo Kweko, his Director of Electoral Services with the Electoral Commission. But first, here's my conversation with the Member of Parliament for Recounting South. Is there some kind of conflict between the EI that says people should wear a mask and the enforcement of it, and the constitutional rights of you have a right to vote?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a conflict. It's like you having a right to enter a bar or a restaurant, but the notice will be there that no mask, no entry. It's part of the protocol that we have to enforce. So if for any reason you want to go to any public place, it's advised that you have a mask, even in a church, in a mosque, several places. So if for this special voting or for voting purposes, you need a mask, I think that we should insist on it, so that at least for the period that you be in the queue, where even though you are social distancing, you should still have your mask to protect yourself and protect others.
Whose responsibility should it be? The political parties or the Electoral Commission, which is conducting the exercise?
It's the voter. It's not every voter who belongs to a political party. But you're exercising your civic responsibility, but you should also marry it with the fact that we should all protect ourselves. So protocol-wise, you wake up in the morning, you want to go and vote, look for your mask. As at this point, I don't think there's anybody who doesn't have a mask at home. If they don't have, they might have used it and discarded it, which would mean that they will need new ones. But for most people, they have masks, and we expect that unless they wear the mask. Even if it's this transparent one, where everybody can see your face, you should have it, except that you should not have any party colors or logo on such marks. So for us as political parties, we've had to do separate ones. Those that people wore and use that as branding and use those ones to even campaign for us. But on election day, they need plain ones to be able to go and vote.
Okay, another issue that has come up is also people not finding their names in the register. There were reports in Kumasi, in the north, elsewhere, like that. What do you do if your name is not in this register?
So those who go and don't find their names, either one, their names were not sent on time, or two, EC has a problem with getting their names on the register.
Okay.
So for specific issues and reasons, the EC should be able to explain why an individual's name will not be on the register.
Okay. Yeah. So, but the concern is, and I heard people explain that it had been confirmed to them that go to polling station so and so, and then they go and they don't find their name on the register. But the concern really is, what if you're deployed outside your constituency on the day of voting? How then?
It means you will not be in a position to vote, and it will be unfortunate.
It means that you've been disenfranchised.
The EC should be able to tell us exactly what the circumstances are.
Shouldn't your party be concerned about people like that?
Well, the party may make a point, but at that stage, we don't even know how it came about. And if the person has opportunity to vote on 7 December, it's not fatal. Like, let's say, media. If they can make arrangements for media to still vote on 7 December. But for a security person who is supposed to, let's say, vote in a brief, and doesn't get the opportunity, and would be posted to, let's say, Ashama on election day, means he would have lost the opportunity to vote. And as I said, the EC should be able to tell us, because it's quite sensible. I think the number is over 100,000, and you can't openly disenfranchise anybody or do anything that would give the impression that such persons have been cut off from voting. They need to tell us really what is happening and why it has turned out that way. There's a bigger problem that even for us in this conference, we were expecting the EC to address. Apparently, those who had their names on the register were the presiding officers. But on election day, you have more than a presiding officer. You have 5 other persons, 4 who will be at the table, issuing presidential, parliamentary, and then those ensuring that everything has been done for you to vote. And then now they have a COVID ambassador. The COVID ambassador is supposed to ensure that people come, they take their temperatures, they ensure that you have the mask, you have the sanitizers and all those things. We were hoping that all of them could vote today, because on election day they will be busy. If they don't vote today, it means on election day they should be assigned to their polling stations, so that they will vote early and then take on the job that they are required to do.
But is that what is going to happen? That's
why we are engaging the AC to, as much as possible, let it happen. Otherwise, we don't expect a ballot issuing officer to say that I need to go and vote elsewhere before I come and sit at the table to issue ballot papers.
We've got less than a week to the December 7 polls. Isn't it too late?
If it's central and they can handle it, they should be able to handle it. For instance, if you recruited officials to assist the presiding officer, the presiding officer has voted on special voting day. The rest of them, if they belong to a polling station, or if you've recruited them and you can assign them to their polling stations, that means they also vote there. It becomes easier for everybody. Otherwise, you expect them to go and vote at their polling stations before they come back to come and do their work at another station. One, it may delay the process, and then 2, it becomes practically impossible unless others will do their work for them.
What's the feedback that you're getting from the Electoral Commission, if any?
Well, today they are occupied with special voting. We are hoping that by evening we should be able to sit down with them. But if it's happening across the country, then we expect every electoral officer in the municipality or district or returning officers to find a way of minimizing this kind of situation. Otherwise, the places will start late, and they may not start at all. If you have to, let's say, go to a Presby A to go and vote before you come and take charge of Kitasi Police Station A. So until you vote, you can't go and be part of the process there.
Well, but that's if the recruitment was done within the constituency, so that all the officials are coming from here.
Most of the time, that's what happens. Very few come from outside the constituency. You have some of the teachers, some of the other persons who apply. They go through the process. If they are recruited, it means they take part. But the most critical thing is trying to assign them to their polling stations or very close to the polling stations.
Okay, okay. One of the other things that we also wanted to understand was the work of the agents, because we've been told many times that an election is won at the polling station. And now that I think the parties, both major parties understand that very well, people predict that there will be a lot of tension. So
Well,
what can the polling agents do or not do so that they don't intimidate me, the voter?
well, in the first place, we all have to agree that both the Constitution and regulations for elections make room for agents. And it's not really about political party agents, it's about candidates and their agents. So it says that if you're a presidential candidate, you're allowed to have an agent at the polling station and then even have a counting agent, in which case you can submit a list of 2 per polling station or submit only 1 person. If you submit 1 person, it means that person becomes the polling agent and also turn himself into a counting agent at the end of the poll. If you submit 2 names, it means one will serve as a polling agent, the other will serve as a counting agent when it's time for counting and recording. So the law allows it. And the law, if you read the CI very well, the CI says agents are allowed at the polling stations to enable them detect impersonation, multiple voting, and to ensure that the elections are held in accordance with the conduct of public elections. So the law has taken care of it. And the law goes further to say that the Electoral Commission, in that case, if it's a presiding officer at the polling station, should grant access to such agents to carry out their responsibilities provided in the Constitution and the law. So that I don't have an agent who will be sitting here and the elections will be going on down there. He cannot observe to ensure that everything is being done according to the law. So the agent is supposed to be quite close enough to the scene. 2, the agent is not supposed to handle any election material. His is to observe, and then if there's any issue that he has to raise it under the law for the presiding officer to also take that into consideration.
We've gone through a lot of elections. Are you not convinced that our electoral officers will do the right thing?
No, it's not about the matter of doing the right thing. What usually happens is there is a difference between the theory and the practice. Permanent officers have gone through this for quite a period. Some too are not permanent, but who have done this for quite some time. Somebody may have been recruited as presiding officer for, let's say, 2012 elections. Get the opportunity to also do 2016 elections. And also go through further training for 2020. So I assume that such a person knows the process. But if you recruit somebody now, fresh enough, and you take him through training, if it's once, twice, or 3 times, and he doesn't belong to the EC, let's say he's a mathematics teacher, he wants to be involved, you've recruited him, you've taken him through the process. On election day, he may not know everything. That is why the agents are also taught well.
So who resolves the issues when there are conflicts?
Well, there are some conflicts if it happens in the course of the election. The returning officer, the overall person in charge of the elections at the constituency level, is the returning officer. It means the returning officer should be brought in. You understand? There are situations too where the elections would have been completed, but issues may arise which will have to be resolved by the returning officer at the collation center. For instance, rejected ballots. The presiding officer may decide that this ballot should be rejected. The agent may dispute that this ballot belongs to my candidate. If the officer insists that it should be rejected, the agent has a right to raise objection. And the presiding officer will have to indicate rejection objected to, or objection to rejection.
Okay.
In which case, he records it. The agent informs the candidate or those representing the candidate at the collation center, where the returning officer is supposed to collate all the results. His attention should be drawn to that an objection was raised to a particular rejection, and he becomes the final authority as to indeed whether it should be rejected or should be counted. The other one is recounting. The regulations allow the agent to ask for recounting after counting. He can ask for another recount. At that point, the presiding officer can say that I will not agree or allow that recounting. The agent can then inform those who will be representing the candidate at the collation center that I asked for recounting at this polling station, and it was refused the second time. When it comes to collation center, the returning officer should allow the recounting.
Okay.
You understand it? So the returning officer more or less is in charge of the elections at the highest level. If there are any disputes, he should be able to resolve them.
Okay.
But as you know, the chair of the EC is the returning officer for the whole country for presidential elections.
Okay.
For parliamentary, it stops at the constituency level.
So I guess the challenge will be you have a very educated agents because you've done some thorough training. But if we don't have...
Well, we have criteria for selecting our agents. You should be literate, you should be numerate, you should be diligent, you should be bold, you should be alert, you should be committed to the work you're doing. And if you cannot read and write, we cannot pick you as an agent.
That's your criteria as MPP?
As MPP.
Okay.
Because you'll be signing forms and attesting to what has been recorded.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing. I just hope that their actions will not intimidate us, the ordinary voters who go to the polling stations.
The agent is not supposed to have any relationship with the voter.
Is there another IPAC meeting before December 7?
I think I've seen a notice for tomorrow. And if the notice is correct, it means there will be a last meeting before election day.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking us through the process.
Thank you so much.
And we wish you well in the context.
Thank you so much. It's still a contest, even though we are only two here. I mean, this is the first time that I have only one opponent. I used to have more than one. We had a CPP candidate who ran for about 3 times with me. But this year he's abandoned it. And he was usually the third person. But he also had some other minor parties having candidates.
Is this the final lap for you?
It's too early to ask and talk about it.
Okay.
I wish I could take a decision, but it's too early for me.
All
but
right.
I would have played my part 8 years in opposition on the left side of the speaker. I've done almost 4 years on the right side of the speaker. I'm hoping to do another 4 years. And then if you balance 8 in opposition, 8 in power, probably somebody else could take over.
All right, this is your election headquarters. That's my conversation yesterday with the Member of Parliament for Ikuapem South, but also because he's in charge of training the NPP agents who will be on the ground on election day, December 7. So that bit about the work of the agents so that in the end they don't intimidate us. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante is a political scientist with the University of Ghana. He joins us via Zoom for a conversation on the back of yesterday's exercise. There will also be the Director of Elections, Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission, Dr. Srebo Kweko, who also join us on this conversation. But Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, a very good morning. Thank you so much for your time here on the AM show.
Good morning.
Great. Did you have time to monitor the exercise, either on the ground or through other mediums? And I'm talking about the special voting.
I must say that I was a little busy, so I did not sit down to monitor the process. But, I listened to a few bits and pieces with regard to the news. So at least I have a fair knowledge as to what happened yesterday.
Okay, great. So what would be your verdict in terms
I
of the
believe
success
that,
of the exercise?
I believe that the process went on well. We recorded some hitches here and there with regard to those who were taking pictures of their ballot and all that. And later investigation shows that they were not through and all that. It's my hope and prayer that that is not true, because then it defeats, it flouts the secrecy laws regarding election. But all said and done, I can say that what transpired yesterday was a good one. The Electoral Commission was up to the task. And I believe that it's not going to end here. We are going to continue and then have the meaningful election come Monday, 7th December.
Now, it's also the issue of the no mask, no vote policy that was being enforced. Really, it was just in line with what is practiced generally. If you go somewhere, they say no mask, no entry, for instance. But there are people who raise the issue that on December 7th, there will be people who genuinely may not be able to afford a mask. And it would become an issue of disenfranchising them in the process. Because if I can't vote, then it means that you're holding me so I can't, if you like, do something that I have a constitutional right to perform.
Yeah, but that argument is also not tenable, in the sense that if you look at the fact that it is your civic right to vote, and that if you are going and take, for instance, you are going to vote and take, for instance, you have to travel. It is not the state that provides you transport. No. So I believe that it's part of our civic responsibility to vote. Whatever the cost that you need to incur in order to vote, I don't think it should be the duty of the state to bear that. But if the state want to do that, fine. But I'm thinking of where the state is going to get money in order to execute that. That is problematic. If you allow the political parties to do, you know what they want to benefit from. And that means that they want to influence the choice of voters, so much. And I believe that something must come out to define this thing properly. But I believe, and I believe strongly, that it is in the duty of the voter to make sure that you go to the polls and vote. And if you need to use transport, I'm not sure it's the state that has to provide for you.
Let me bring Dr. Strebo Kweko into the conversation. He's Director of Electoral Services with the Electoral Commission. He joins us via phone. Dr. Strebo Kweko, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. Your line is so low.
Okay, so I'll try and speak up a bit. Hopefully you can hear me better now.
Hello?
Hello, Dr. Kweko, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay, great. So yesterday, as you contributed here on our platform, you didn't have the appreciation from the rest of the country. You were talking largely from your own observation because you also went around. Collectively, do we know in terms of turnout countrywide yesterday's exercise?
Yeah. The provisional figures now is 88%. 88%.
You are expecting 100%, at least from the last press conference by the Electoral Commission chair. So is this success for you or you're disappointed?
We would have been happy if everybody who applied had voted. The challenge is that if your name appeared on the special voters list and you did not vote yesterday, it means you have lost your right to vote for 2020. That is why we were expecting 100% so that nobody would have lost his or her vote. But from the end of the issue, some 12% people out of the special voters list cannot vote in 2020. And it's unfortunate.
Yesterday, you wanted a bit of time to appreciate the issue of the missing names. Do you have clarity now?
Missing names from...
Missing names from the special voters register yesterday.
We didn't have any missing names. Those who were successfully captured were supposed to vote. If your name did not appear, it's not mean that you have not captured.
So I engaged Mr. Obi Amwa, who is a member of parliament for Ekuapem South. And
you engaged who?
Mr. Obi Amwa, or say Bonsu Amwa,
okay.
member of parliament for Ekuapem South.
Okay.
And he raised the issue of the other agents recruited by the Electoral Commission at the polling centers who could not get the opportunity to vote yesterday, apart from the presiding officers. So what's the plan if they have to vote on December 7th?
The other agency? Which agency?
No, the other agents recruited by the Electoral Commission.
No,
so the
we call party reps as agents. We call our people officials. So if we talk of agents, you're referring to the party reps.
Okay, so I guess I'm talking about our your officials. Exactly.
And the instruction to our officers is that they should assign them to where they are registered voters or close by, so that they will not be disenfranchised. That is the order to the officials.
So are they going to vote before everybody else on Monday?
If you are working at the police station where you registered, then you will start working. When the line is less busy, then you go and cast your vote. If you registered outside if you are working outside where you registered, close by, and when you are a bit free at your place, you go to the police station, you are wearing our jacket. You will not go and join any queue. You go there, you are given preferential treatment. Within 3 minutes, you will have finished your vote. You go back and work duty and continue the work.
So that's in the case where the centers are closed.
That's why I said we have ordered our officers that those who have been recruited should be put either where they registered or nearby.
Okay.
It's an order to them.
Okay. So how about the issue of some persons taking photographs? And I know that you've said that you don't have control because you don't search people to seize their mobile phones, for instance, so you can't tell what they will do in the booth. But how does that disrupt the exercise? What kind of message does it send?
Is specific that a choice of balloting should be in secrecy. So the moment you take snapshot of your thumbprint or the ballot paper, you have breached the law. And yesterday, I know 3 people so far have been arrested. And it is my wish that those people are given custodial sentence before 7th December to serve as warning to others. We should be people who respect the laws of the country. We cannot take the laws into our own hands. That is indiscipline. So anybody who did that flouted the law, and they should bow their heads in shame. Why would you take snapshot of your vote? What is the need for it? And by so doing, you are breaching the laws of the country, and you should be sanctioned severely and with swiftness that it demands to serve as warning to others.
Dr. Asribo Kweku, stay with me. I've got Dr. Asa Asante, who is a political scientist with the University of Ghana, also with me. Let me ask you, Dr. Asa Asante, are there lessons that the Electoral Commission, are there things that they should perform better come Monday that you want to share?
I think that so far what I've seen, I'm satisfied and I'm happy with that. We want to encourage them to work and improve their performance. So far, they've done creditably well. The issue of pictures that people were taking and all that, I'm sure they've taken political notice of this, and they are going to work at it so that it doesn't repeat when we get to the main election day on the 7th. I'm sure as part of their program, any lapses that they come across, they are able to look at it and deal with it head on. So I know that definitely on Monday, they will live up to expectation. I have no doubt in my mind.
Dr. Sirokoko, just before I let you go, is it allowed for snacks, water, or food to be shared to voters either when they're queuing or after they've voted?
Who is sharing the food?
As in members of it. Okay, so let me put it this way: candidates or supporters of the political parties, can they give food or snacks out?
In the queue, they don't have to do that. They will be disrupting the process. But if the people had already finished voting, the choice has been made. So if they're going and somebody decides to give them food, what I do, and I wouldn't say that that one was used to influence them. But if they were going to vote or they were in the queue before voting, I don't think it's to be proper.
Okay. So just finally with you, what are the lessons that you've learned from this exercise that you're hoping to either improve or do differently on Monday?
I would say that all stakeholders, the media, civil society organizations, observers, party reps, and the party executives, the voters all comported themselves. We are expecting that we should replicate them on 7th December. But those who went to the centers without masks, they should understand that COVID is still available. And you can contract the disease when you step out of your house without putting on the mask. Again, it is also a breach of the law that you step out of your house without being in a mask. We should bear in mind that COVID is not at the polling station only. You can contract them anywhere along the route. So please protect yourself and protect the people you come into contact with by wearing the mask before you step out. And I will treat everybody to be law-abiding, that nobody will find himself against the law because he went and cast the vote. Let us be all law-abiding.
Okay. Are you considering the suggestions that have come in that you should procure at least just some small quantity of mask on polling day so that you can give out as Electoral Commission?
Defeat that argument. If you say that we should procure the quantities, then the way you are telling Kenyans that the COVID can only be contracted at the polling station. So what about you step out of your house without a mask, you join a bus or vehicle without a mask, and you contract it before getting to the polling station? Let us encourage everybody to be responsible, because if you have a right, that right also embeds in you or enjoins you to be responsible. So let us be in a mask before you step out. Because if you are saying that we are going to provide them in a mask at the polling station, then indirectly you are telling people that the COVID can only be contracted at the polling station. So when you step out and you are not in a mask, you are not endangering yourself and others. I want to buy that. Be in a mask before you step out.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sribo Kweko, for your time here on the AM show. He's Director of Electoral Services with the Electoral Commission. I have Dr. Asa Asante. Doc, you're still here with us. The issue of giving out food or snacks at the polling centers, and yesterday there were reports of some of the candidates positioning themselves and giving out food after people had voted. What's wrong with a thing like that?
You know, elections are conducted based on laws. So the laws that regulate the conduct of people with regard to election must be adhered to strictly. Simplicity. We don't need a variation of the law, and we don't need where there is non-compliance. That defeats the whole business of election. So we are saying that the rules are there. Whoever flouts them must be visited by appropriate punishment. Pure and simple.
And then, okay, so it's clear now that you can't give out when somebody is in the queue, but you can do whatever you want to do after the person has voted. And then Dr. Sribo Kweko also talks about those who took the pictures about 3 of them that he's hoping that they can be punished really hard so that people can learn the lesson from that. But there's also the issue of agents. And yesterday we saw largely MPP NDC, even though there are 12 candidates on the ballots with the presidential election. What's happening? We know that at least the minority parties and the only presidential, one presidential candidate, they don't have that much votes in the past. They haven't had. But why don't they have agents at the polling stations?
I can't explain, but I'm sure they have a good reason for that. But if you look at the system and you trust the system so much that you don't want to send agent, nobody will force you. At the end of the day, we want to be satisfied with the process and we want to assure ourselves that we have done the right thing. So if they believe in the system, that the system is so, robust that it can really address some of the issues and instill confidence of the actors in politics, we are good to go. That I can't say much. It's their right to send agents there. And if they decide not to send, I believe that they have a very firm understanding of the system and they believe in that the system will work to their advantage. I am with them.
So let me bring in project lead of election observers, Cordeo Rhoda Osei Afo, who also joins us on this conversation. Rhoda, good morning and thank you for your time. So yesterday you did give a fair assessment of yesterday's exercise, but I guess the day after it's all come together properly for Cordeo. What's your report on yesterday's exercise?
Thank you very much and good evening to your viewers. Yesterday's exercise was significant and I think it's something that the Electoral Commission has been doing well, which is to provide certain categories of people who will not be able to probably vote on election day the opportunity to cast their ballots. In many other places on our continent, this opportunity is not there. But over the years, we have made this opportunity available and it's something that we commend the Electoral Commission. Now, in terms of the processes and what unfolded yesterday, generally, we looked at a number of factors. We look at the performance of biometric verification devices because this is a very significant aspect of the process. We are looking at verification, making sure whoever is voting is the right person so to do, and then we are making sure that everybody has just one ballot. And again, we know that the biometric verification devices, this was one major reason or one factor that the Electoral Commission provided for compiling a new voter register because they were talking about the state of the old devices. So
okay, so our connections seem to be going bad with Rhoda Osei Afo, project lead of Cordeo, probably re-establish contacts, but I still have Dr. Asa Asante with me. And maybe in wrapping up this conversation with you, Dr. Asa Asante, if you can hear me, Monday's just around the corner. How much of what has happened in the special voting exercise should we, because, in this exercise, in yesterday's exercise, we had 109,000, a little over 109,000 voting. So it's still not compared to the numbers that we will see on Monday.
Yes, we expect that the one, because we still have COVID around our neck, we need to be able regarding COVID-19. Another thing we must also take note is that we need to also make sure that logistics, electoral logistics are available and that you don't go to the place and then these things are in short supply. They must be ready for people to use and then exercise their franchise legally. Also, I want to make sure that the verification machines and any other appliances that are used to make the process better and let people go through the process smoothly, they are in top shape so that they will be able to deliver what we expect for them. We also want to encourage the continuous education of the electorate so that they follow the rules regulating the conduct of voters in elections, and then they know the processes and they are able to abide by these processes very well. And one other thing I want to add is that we want to also encourage people to go there in their numbers and vote. I'm happy that we are getting higher voter turnout. It's a good thing. There are a lot of factors that explain high voter turnout. One is when you have for people in the age bracket of 18 to 35, they are always eager to vote. When you have people who also participate, discuss politics, and they are active participants, there is the tendency for them to support voting. And of course, these things are governed by a lot of ideas. If you have the parties who mobilize support for their adherents to go and vote, it's a way of also encouraging voter turnout. And we believe that all these things, we must bear in mind that we can't do them in isolation. We do them according to the rules that govern the game of elections in this country. It's my hope and prayer that we'll be able to do things and do it well, so that at the end of the day, this election will be peaceful and results will be declared on time, so that whoever wins, we congratulate the person, and who loses, those who lose, they have to accept defeat of the game and abide by the rules that govern the elections.
Yeah, sure. Just before you go, though, so the Electoral Commission puts turnout at 88%, even though before the exercise, they were hoping for 100%. So would you say that's a success for them?
Oh, it is a success, because once you are getting beyond 60%, you are improving. And I'm saying that there are a lot of factors that go to make these things possible. We as political scientists look at it from three theoretical perspectives. We have what we call the mobilization theory, where political parties, media, and actors in the media, in the political landscape, take it upon themselves to mobilize support so that people will go and exercise their franchise. We have also what we call the resource theory, where those who are resourceful in terms of knowledge, in terms of time, and in terms of wealth, they also show more interest in election. And of course, we also talk about the individual benefit theory that goes to shed light on what is at stake and how close the contest is. If you look at this year election, it's very close, and a lot of things at stake, and then that explain why people want to cast their vote. And of course, we are getting a huge number of young people who are entering into the political landscape to vote for the first time. Research has shown that between ages of 18 and 35 are always excited to go and cast their vote. So I'm not surprised that we are getting this number of voter turnout. I know that is not going to be different when we go to the main polls on Monday.
Well, Dr. Asante, thank you so much for your time. Let me wrap up with you, Rodel Say, Afro Project Lead of Cordeo. What's your comments? The expectation of the Electoral Commission was that we'll have 100% voter turnout. It turns out that we got 88%. How would you rate it then? Is this still successful turnout?
Well, I think for the Electoral Commission, the most important thing is that you want to make the opportunity available for every Ghanaian to cast their ballot. And of course, the higher the response rates, the better it is for all of us. But you cannot at any point guarantee a certain percentage, because there are various factors that are informing people's participation in an election. So it can be quite dicey, but at the same time, if you look at the category of people who took part in yesterday's exercise, we are looking at security personnel, you are looking at the media and election officials. These, I would say, are not your average. I mean, it's not a representation of the entire voter population. It will give you a good indication in terms of whether people are keen on. I think 88%, what they had is quite good, but it will be difficult for you to expect 100% participation, because, like I said, people are looking at various factors in terms of their participation. But if I have to go back to the other issue I was talking about before the line went off, I was looking at the issue of the performance of biometric verification devices. And the point I was trying to make was that if you look at this particular elections, the major reason the Electoral Commission, one of the reasons they had for compiling a new register was the state of their equipment. And so you wanted to check if the new set of devices that we are having for these elections are performing up to expectations. Yesterday, from the report that we had from our observers, generally it was a smooth exercise. Most people were able to go through fingerprint verification. There were a few places where people had to go through, a handful of people had to go through facial recognition. So that is a positive thing. If you look at the number of centers that opened yesterday, we had just 275 centers. On election day, we are looking at over 30,000 polling stations. The issue is whether we'll have these devices performing in a similar manner across the country. And I think this is where we should be working, we should be looking at. It would be good if what we saw yesterday is replicated across the over 30,000 polling stations that we are going to vote on election day. If you look at the COVID arrangements too, I think during the biometric verification registration exercise, we noticed that the pilot exercise was beautiful, but when we started the actual registration, the earlier phases, it was a challenge enforcing the COVID protocol. So again, we want to be sure that on the December 7th, what we saw yesterday, we are seeing it across the length and breadth of the country.
Is it disappointing, though, that the Electoral Commission is not considering purchasing some nose masks so they can give to, we're hoping, the few people who probably show up not in mask?
It would have been a good thing if the state was going to make these available. But given that currently the arrangements, they don't have that, I think what we can do is to just educate people, sensitize people for them to come in their mask. And I think the issue that has been raised in the media is whether people who may not be able to afford should just be should be turned away from the voting centers. It's important that we are looking at this in a fair manner. We are looking at public health. The individual's life matter. You want to vote, but you want to make sure that after the voting, you are alive. And so please, let us all exercise caution. If you cannot even afford a mask and you can get a covering to safely cover your nose and your mouth, just so you can vote safely and also grant others the same, I think that would be a good thing for all of us.
Well, Rhoda, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for your time. And Rhoda is project lead with Cordell, their perspective on the special voting exercise. Stay with us. You're watching the M Show here on JoyNews. Of course, this is your election headquarters. Everything related to the elections, you hear it first here on JoyNews. So stay with us.